Hello and welcome to the next episode of my channel where I'll be taking up part 2 of Triumph of Surgery. Now in the first part we saw how Dr. Harriet brought Tricky to the surgery because he had become extremely obese. Now surgery over here means the clinic. So at the surgery, the household dogs, surrounded the doctor because the doctor had come with a new specimen, okay, new dog. And Tricky looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes. He had no interest, in the dogs, and he just lay motionless on the carpets. The other dogs also, after sniffing Tricky, did not pay any interest in the uninteresting object, that is Tricky. They did not take much interest in the dog, which was not interested in playing with them. So the doctor made a bed for him, and a normal bed, and he was supposed to sleep with the other dogs. And for the next days the doctor gave him only plenty and plenty of water. So by the end of the second day, Tricky had started to show some interest in the surrounding, and by the third day, he had started to whimper with the other dogs. When he heard the other dogs whimpering, he too used to make sound. So by the end of the third day, when he opened the door, Tricky somehow, went to meet the other dogs in the yard, and then he was engulfed by other dogs like Joe the greyhound and his friends, and they started playing with him, inspecting with him. So by then, Tricky had started to show interest, but he was not very active in playing. And later that day, when the doctor was present at the feeding time, he saw how, when Tristan, that is the doctor's assistant, put the food into the bowls, all the dogs, used to rush and finish off the food in a second, at a very high speed eating, okay? And only Tricky had just taken a round around the shining bowls, because by the time he reached his bowl, other dogs had already finished eating his food. So by the end, first day doctor gave him only water. Second day, Tricky started to take interest in other dogs. By the end of third day, he just took a round near the bowls without eating anything. But then slowly, by the end of fourth day, fifth day, Tricky had started to eat, and he was as happy as the other dogs to compete to finish off the food as quickly as possible. And that's when his progress started. No medical treatment was ever given, and he became an accepted member of the gang, Silky Little Object, amongst the shaggy crew. Silky Little Object means he was the most taken care of, polished object, a pampered dog. But here Mrs. Pumphrey was suffering a lot. And then every time she used to call to get the latest bulletin, latest news of the dog, how he was doing. And when she just heard a term that the dog was convalescing, convalescing means when you improve, recover from a disease, she couldn't tolerate anymore, and she started sending eggs and wine. And obviously the doctor was not giving these eggs and wines to Tricky. He himself was enjoying it, okay. The lunch became a ceremony for them, because it was party time for them. 2 glasses of wine before and several during the meal. Okay, so brandy, wine, egg, everything was being sent by Mrs. Pumphrey for the dog, but ultimately it was consumed by the doctor. Now, obviously, it would have been a temptation for the doctor to keep Tricky as a permanent guest, because the longer Tricky would have been there, the longer he could have enjoyed all these food items. But the doctor, being a good person, couldn't tolerate Mrs. Pumphrey in pain. So finally, he called Mrs. Pumphrey, announcing that Tricky had recovered. So the day Mrs. Pumphrey came to pick up Tricky, she was very anxious, and she was sitting in her car waiting for Tricky. And the moment the gate was opened, Tricky jumped at her, and she was also startled to see Tricky in such a good condition. He started licking her, barking, and then in her happiness, She exclaimed, "Oh, Mr. Harriet, how can I ever thank you? This is a triumph for surgery." But the irony is, no medical treatment or no surgery was ever done on Tricky. But it was only Mrs. Donovan's misconception that it had been a surgery.